Good morning, vinyl community, crime community. I'm gonna read a chapter out of Nick Schreck's book, The Manson File, Hanging Out with Mr. J. After Tate became involved with Roman Polanski in London in 1966, she remained close with her ex-fiancé, Sebring. The ever-cool Sebring seemingly accepted Tate's departure from Easton Drive for equanimity. There was no lack of other women. But the split with Sharon marked the beginning of Sebring's growing dependence upon cocaine and the addition of a new habit, amphetamine. After his death, many of his closest friends speculated that it was a mixture that pushed his already reckless risk-taking to a new extreme. He was rarely seen sober again. He also began drinking heavily. He raced his sports car so fast on the winding streets around Benedict Canyon that few risked a second spin with him. When the first vague whispers about his death did the rounds on the morning of August 9th, 1969, those of his friends who didn't think he'd been killed due to the mob connections supposed that he'd OD'd or died in a car crash. In 1968, the Sebring parties at Easton Drive turned so grotesque, many of the social circle began to drift out of his increasingly erratic orbit. At one of Mr. J's elaborating themed galas, all attendees were invited to dress up in American Indian braves and squaws. After their host provided them with liberal doses of mescaline, the weekend savages shred their inhibitions, dancing in Sebring's secluded garden to the beat of tom-tom. At the height of his growing ecstasy, or group ecstasy, Sebring directed them to eat the raw cuts of meat he'd hung on the wall. This month's dripping with blood, Sebring and his guests retired inside to continue the obligatory orgy in more comfort. Neighbors saw the revelers leaving Easton Drive with blood still in their mouths. Some of Sebring's new conservative show business pals, who'd known him since the swinging but comparatively restrained Rat Pack days, were appalled by these events. One of the things they estranged the older generation from Sebring was his new habit of inviting the hippies he increasingly cared out his dope dealing with to these increasingly wild happenings. Sebring, in his mid-30s, wanted to be with it. He scorned the criticisms as hopelessly square. As mentioned earlier, the rumors that the Cielo Drive killings were realistic in nature often centered on discussion of a hood said to have been found covering Sebring's face. There was no hood, it was a hand towel. Sammy Davis Jr. will recall reporting witnesses Sebring conducted a mock ritual in the warlock-like hood. Sebring, equally close confidant Joe Hyams, recalled that the hairdresser once showed Hyams a white hood, which reminded him of the type used to cover the hangman's face at executions. Hyman asked Sebring what it was for. "You'll be amazed," was Sebring's reply. At another kooky Sebring-themed party in 1968, the guests were asked to don 17th century costumes. Among the quaint old-world customs revived for their entertainment was a mock execution with Sebring as the condemned. He stood in the chair while one guest placed a noose around his neck. The costume was completed with a white hood. The rope he tied to the beams on the ceiling. Someone kicked the chair from Sebring. While the guests continued to tend, they could see the noose tighten. And the count of 8, Sebring's date for the evening, began to scream, terrified. Just in time, the hair was placed back under Sebring. The chair was placed back under Sebring. He untied those and removed the hood, facing the hysterical girlfriend with a reassuring smile. Word of a nearly fatal suicide spread among the Sebring's drug dealer connections and friends. Daredevil Sebring bragged about his death-defying stunt. Roman Polanski even interviewed the police, downplayed the extremity of Sebring's sadomasochism and drug use, but some of Sebring's bed partners admitted that Sebring's also experimented with using amyl nitrate while engaging in the practice of auto-asphyxiation through while hanging at the moment of orgasm to heighten the thrill. Speculation about Sebring's sexual habits inspired much moralistic finger wagging in a standard voyeuristic Tate LaBianca press reports and literature, but the prudish tone of the condemnation distracts from something far more important to the case. Actually, the scuffy, long-haired street dealer clients who turned up at several Easton Drive fetes were Charles Watson, who ordered large quantities of acid, mescaline, and cocaine from Sebring, another dope dealer seen at Easton Drive, with Billy Doyle, a rival of Watson's, also competed for his customers. This attendance of these affairs is what inspired the odd still life tabloid of ropes and rafters the police discovered at Cielo Drive. I'm going to end short today. The next chapter is called Summer Bummer with Bummer Bob, Terry Marshmallow, and the Blue-Eyed Oriental. Maybe one day we'll figure out what this is all about. God pray for all the families and children.